Hey everybody, welcome to Faces of Stone again. I am hosting this episode. My name is Marc-Anthony Macon, and with me we have our usual cohorts. We've got the inventor of demolition yoga, the lead singer of the Shuttle Parkers, and the final president of the United States, Amanda Sisk.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm just as,
You're Justice? You are Justice.
I'm Justice. I am Justice.
Totally Justice. We've also got the founding member of the underground art collective, Helen of Troy's Bucket List.
It's really good.
Nicely
done. We have Groucho Marx avatar and the Dalai Lama of the double-decker, Noah Diamond. Welcome.
Thank you. There's nowhere I'd rather be in the world. And as everyone can see, I'm wearing a different shirt than I did in our previous episode.
And I'm wearing a different shirt, even though it's still a Mississippi State shirt because it's game day. And I have these superstitions, even though my team is really bad. And I can talk to you about it later.
I have not changed in a week. I'm still wearing exactly the same thing I wore last week. It's been a rough week.
But you've obviously been on the same shaving schedule.
It's No Mo November, so I have not. I have not done that. I'm also wearing my Parasite pin by local artist Max Gogsky. This is a caterpillar that has little. You can see him here. He's.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he's got eggs from a braconid wasp planted on him.
Nice. That's just great.
So they will hatch and eat him.
Before we get there, what was I the lead singer of? Because I really liked it.
The Shuttle Parkers, which is a reference to one of my favorite bits in today's episode, The Last Jedi. When they're on Canto Bight, there's the guy that saw them parking the shuttle and telling, "You can't park there," and then later he's like, "That's them, that's the Shuttle Parkers."
Yes,
Yeah.
Shuttle Parkers.
And I think that would be a great band. I'd go see the Shuttle Parkers.
Yeah, I'd go see the Shuttle Parkers.
So, Last Jedi.
Yeah.
This, first of all, I mean, before it was released, I think there was a lot of speculation, similar to the way that now we have speculation about the title and the meaning of Rise of Skywalker. Who is the Last Jedi was kind of the question that was being brought about. And I think everyone kind of thought it was supposed to be Luke. And as we learned later from Luke's own mouth, he will not be the Last Jedi.
No. Everything that Steve just said is wrong.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that it's, in an overarching way, I like the way that this movie is very much rhymes with The Empire Strikes Back, in that it takes everything we knew that was set up in a certain way and kind of twists it into something completely different. And I think that's the big strength of this, is that rather than just kind of mirroring Empire in a lot of ways, it actually changes the way that we look at Star Wars and look at the story. And that, for me, is why this is my second favorite Star Wars movie, my first being the holiday special, of course.
I think the phrase "The Last Jedi" appears in the crawl for episode 7, doesn't it? I believe describing Luke. And I think that's the first time that's happened, that the title phrase of the movie comes from one of the crawls.
And this is the only time that the title of the movie is said in the movie.
Ah, okay. The only time that ever happens. Yeah.
Other than Rogue One, I suppose.
Because nobody says, you know what they're going to see? The Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, right.
So let's talk about this crawl. Is this crawl not like 20 times longer than any other crawl?
It is a pretty long crawl.
It's a long crawl.
Paragraphs.
In the first paragraph, it says that the First Order has decimated the peaceful republic. And I thought maybe we should talk about the word decimated a little bit, which technically means reduced by 10%.
Which is bad, but not that bad.
Not that bad, but it has come to mean, and I believe it's a word that the repeated use of an incorrect definition has sort of usurped that, and now that's considered a sort of historical or archaic definition, and decimate has come to mean the way it's being used here.
And this is an example where I can deal with that evolution of the word a lot better than I can, say, for example, literally, which now means figuratively. Yeah. When something means the opposite of what it used to mean, I have more problem than when it's now just an exaggerated version of what it initially meant.
Yeah, it literally makes steam come out of my ears when people, Yeah,
Okay, now,
no doubt about it.
Yeah, okay, so historically it's kill 1 in every 10 group of soldiers as a punishment for the whole group.
Right.
But the first definition is kill, destroy, or remove a large percentage or part of.
Right.
Yeah.
The project would decimate the fragile wetland wilderness. Does not mean they take 1 out of every 10 trees.
Right. So in its original use, in the context of warfare, one might have said like, could have been worse. We were decimated, but most of us are okay.
It was just a decimation. We survived.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want like a few things with this. First of all, every time I watch a new Star Wars thing, for some reason, the first thing my brain does is catalog the planets. So here we have Qatar. That is the planet that the Rebel base is on at the start.
Mm-hmm.
We have Canto. Well, not Canto Bight is the town. The name of the planet is Cantonica.
Is District 1? Is that what we're talking about here?
What?
It's like it's the Hunger Games. That's District 1, right?
I suppose, kind of. Yeah, you could look at it that way. And this is Canto Bight is kind of it's in the corporate sector, so that was something that Han Solo old books, the old Han Solo books, kind of delved into a bit. Was this segment of the galaxy? We have Ahch-To, where Luke and the first Jedi Temple are. And
is
then
Ahch-To the island or the planet?
Ahch-To is the planet, but the
Are you
planet
sure
is
they weren't
like
just sneezing a lot? And they're like,
what was sneezing?
Ahch-To!
Ahch-To!
Okay, so the Jedi orders Ahch-To! You know?
Yeah, the second Jedi Temple is on Gesundheit. So also, just a quick note. So do you know who it is in this movie that says I've got a bad feeling about this?
It's BB-8.
It is BB-8. Yep.
But I know that, but I've never actually caught it. When does he say it?
He says it right at the beginning as he and Poe are heading toward the dreadnought, and he goes boop, 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 and Poe says only happy thoughts or something like that. He's
Nice.
Happy beeps, only happy beeps.
I always pay attention to whether we pan up or we pan down.
At the very beginning?
Yes, and this time we pan down. We pan down usually and see a planet. We pan up and usually see spaceships. This time we pan down and saw the planet and then ships flying past.
We dive down.
Yes, I don't think it means anything, but it's really important to me.
I agree. I think that the openings, each of them works pretty well for what that movie is doing, and I think that includes even the prequels. And in episode 1, we get a pretty unassuming ship at the beginning that has the Jedi on it, and we're not given as much of the story in that point. So I like that one, and I like this one a lot too. I love that dive.
Well, I think that they kind of, the opening in episode 4, where you pan up and Spaceballs made fun of it because you see the ship going on and on and on and on, and it was such this huge thing of like, oh my God, that I think I just now really pay attention to what happens there, and I don't think it really matters, but maybe it does. It's just something that I really think about and focus on because I think 4 set it up that you have to really hit something there.
But this is unique though, because as we said in our last episode, episode 7 ended with such a cliffhanger, and I remember sort of wondering if episode 8 would begin, and yeah, we'd probably start in space, but then would we go right to that moment with Luke and Rey on Ahch-To? And in fact, they don't give that to us right away.
And it's almost literally a cliffhanger.
No, and I'm glad they don't.
Literally.
Yes. So also something that I had not noticed before is that when Poe is asking to talk to Hux, he asks for General Hugs. Like, speak to General Hugs.
Oh, he says Hugs, yeah.
General Hugs.
Hugs, yeah.
Yeah, I'm holding for General Hugs. Okay, I'll wait.
Kylo's ship is called the Silencer. Hux's ship is called the Finalizer.
The Finalizer?
And I love this opening space battle. The Finalizer.
This man has a very small something.
Because Hux used to be a real estate agent.
Wait, you're breaking up. He used to be a what?
Oh, am I? Oh, I said that it's called the Finalizer because General Hux, prior to joining the Empire, was a real estate agent. Am I still breaking up? My
Hux
internet
was a real
connection
estate
is
agent?
unstable. Oh, you got it. Finally.
I didn't hear it,
There was
but-
a delayed reaction there.
Yeah,
So
you were kind of streaming slow, but
Okay.
we got it.
So wait, it's called The Finalizer because he was a real estate
All
agent?
right. Well, I apologize, folks out there that are getting choppy jokes. So the unknown regions I want to mention here as something that I think is going to be pertinent to the Rise of Skywalker, and it was kind of hinted at in Last Jedi. I've got a map here. Okay, map of the galaxy. Right here. We have right by Galactic Central Point, we've got Coruscant. And then way down here, we have Ahch-To, where Luke is in this movie. And then there's a little red line kind of showing the direction to get there, which is what BB-8 has in his files. This passes right by Endor. And I think that's maybe significant.
How do you spell Ahch-To?
Ahch-To is, let me make sure I've got the correct, AHCH-TO.
Ahch-To.
Ahch-To!
So it's a German planet.
It is. It's a very. They've got great automotive industry going there on Ahch-To.
And sausages.
Delicious knockwurst.
And the significance of the proximity to Endor might be that Episode 9, which seems to involve the wreckage of the second Death Star, may get us somewhere in that part of the galaxy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we have to assume that the parts we've seen in the trailers for The Rise of Skywalker probably take place on Endor or nearby. Could be Yavin 4, it doesn't seem likely.
But if we do return there, you know, everyone's going to have to talk in their Endor voices.
I'm gonna die. You're just gonna.
I just damn well better see an Ewok. I better see a lot of Ewoks. I hope they've got like someone skinned on a spit and they're eating them.
Right, because C-3PO is not there to save him.
Right, yeah, this time. And we know that they like eating people, so.
Yes, which is weird.
Which is a really weird thing.
They seem to be, you know, vegetarians. I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine they're hunter-gatherers. They eat nuts and berries and the occasional stormtrooper.
The occasional stormtrooper.
That's...
I am glad, you know, they may come back, but the things I love, the porgs that you just told
yes,
me
the porgs
are adorable.
They're
love
so
them
cute.
with all my heart. And part of what makes them so cute is they also don't have whites in their eyes.
They're a little, Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian is somewhat porg-like.
Very much.
A little porgy and Bess.
Not so much Bess.
Yeah.
The porgs, by the way, were kind of a necessity because the place where they filmed that was covered with puffins, and they decided that editing out all the puffins was challenging enough. You might as well put something over them, and so porgs were created to cover puffins.
Wow, that's nice.
So
I like that.
they made the puffins wear little outfits.
They dressed them up, yeah.
And you know, they paid them union
They were
wages,
like
and
extras,
it was they got to have craft services and
Well,
everything.
yeah, from what I heard, they were
were
just around craft services the whole time. They ate
Mhm.
everything, and nobody else got anything.
yeah, if they
And,
shat
you know-
in the fruit salad, it was kind of a problem.
And puffins have to take a smoke break like every 15 minutes.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
It's like the Atlanta airport with all these puffins here.
And everybody who's ever smoked and flown knows exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
There's a big cube of smoke in the
The
middle of
horrible
the
glass
It's awful.
box.
It's
Yeah.
awful. It's like opaque, and you walk in there and you just don't even have to have a cigarette. Anyway.
It's just you just go in there and inhale, and you get your nicotine fix. It's
Mhm.
convenient, I guess.
Yes.
I love the put upon fish nuns. I love their
The
expression.
caretakers.
I don't
They've
like.
been
They're
taking
adorable.
care of the temple for over 1,000 generations.
Okay, so how old are the fishwives? Are they like that old, or is it
The
generation?
fishwives.
Yeah, they're thousands of years old, I guess.
They wouldn't like me either, and they remind me of like teachers that used to get upset with me for things I couldn't help, like shooting my blaster accidentally, or cutting a rock down that had been there for millions of years. Like, I'm just clumsy. I can't help it, right? You know, don't get
I'm
mad.
not going to check if there are any nuns below before I cut this rock.
Right, and you know what? If you're here to take care of the island, take care of the island. You
Mhm.
know, don't have people
You
make it.
didn't stop me from cutting this thing down.
That's why you're here.
So, let's talk about the vine-ridden sphincter, the dark anus of this movie.
Yes.
The planty asshole.
The planty asshole.
And when Luke is so disturbed and he says, "You went right to the asshole."
Something's pulling me into the asshole.
Well, I mean,
firing assholes.
She was
in
on
Return of the Jedi, we had a vagina in the desert. Now we've got an asshole on the island.
Vagina with teeth. But so she feels it when she's on the rock. She feels the cold,
Yes.
and he knows that, and he teaches it as a lesson of balance. But he doesn't seem that frightened yet.
Not at that time. And to add just a little nerdiness to this, so apparently the reason that Yoda chose Dagobah as a place to hide out was that the cave there, I don't know if this is legends or if this is canon or not, but there was a dark Jedi or a Sith Lord was killed there, and so there's this powerful dark energy there, so that was masking the fact that Yoda was there. It was a way to hide. So it seems that Luke is doing something similar. He's hiding out near a darky dark thing to make sure that he can't be found.
I think Darky Dark was much better after he changed his name back to Dark Wahlberg. And I think that not only does the dark cave on Octo sort of rhyme with in what happens to Luke on Dagobah, but the exiled, it's in Luke's case it's a self-imposed exile, but the exiled reluctant teacher sought by the pupil, we're clearly in an Empire state of mind here. I didn't even do that on purpose.
So Rey's vision is really, first of all, it's beautifully shot. I like the way that it's done. It's haunting. Something I noticed this time that I hadn't noticed before is that she walks up to this, kind of crystal glass wall, whatever ice wall it is, and, kind of sees her reflection in there. She asks to see her parents, and we see two forms mold into one. This is at the end, I guess. She has to see her parents.
Right.
And, she ultimately sees herself. But first, she sees this long line of rays reflected. What I hadn't noticed is that the first time that we see the line of them, it's from the point of view of one inside that reflection that looks back and sees the original ray that's making that reflection in the cave.
Yes.
I hadn't quite noticed that before this viewing.
This is all very Black Swan.
It is very Black Swan, yeah.
It's also very Duck Soup. Like the mirror scene, like I wondered if one of the rays would pull up a hat, and the other ray would have a different hat.
Yeah, it's just like that.
So there is speculation that part of what this means is she's her own parents. She's a clone.
Mm-hmm.
The person that produced her was just another version of her. There are people that think that in The Last Jedi we're going to see an army of evil rays that Palpatine had cloned.
So that explains all the dark and
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I've kept my personal speculation as thin as possible for what Rise of Skywalker will be, but
I think it's just I don't think it's a story reference. I just think it's a theme on you are the only person here. You're the only person that can save yourself, but you're not aligned with yourself in any way. You don't know all the parts of yourself are from here to there. And this one doesn't snap when this one does, and this one doesn't turn when this one does. And you've got to put this together because the only thing on the other side of that wall that's going to save you is one of you.
And the mystery of Rey's identity sort of continues and deepens here. Luke keeps asking, why you? Why are you here to see me? And in the cave in the tree with the Jedi texts, Rey says, I know this place, I've seen this island in a dream. Whether it is cloning or whether she's somehow a creation of the Force, engineered maybe by Palpatine, maybe by somebody else, there is clearly and this is a continuation of some of what happens in The Force Awakens. Rey does have a yet unrevealed role and origin that's part of this story.
Mm-hmm. And it seems that she
balanced the Force.
She is stronger in the Force than Luke is, and naturally so.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Luke, it seemed like, Anakin had some kind of natural talents that were really apparent at a very young age. Luke, not so much.
Yes,
it really wasn't until he met Kenobi that he started drawing that out. And Rey seems to be much more of the Anakin vein, and even more so than Anakin. Like, she really instantly knows what she's doing in this way.
Yeah, in the last week, I read an interview with Judge Abrams, in which he said that he was asked that question, like, Rey seems to take to the Force very naturally and easily, much more than Luke did. And Judge Abrams said, that's not an accident.
Yeah, I would think not.
Luke seems to have come into his own in the Force in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, or even in Return of the Jedi.
Well, when he's in that black suit and everything, he really seems like...
Yeah. In Jedi.
Jedi, sorry. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His Empire.
Well, he does, he calls the lightsaber to him in Empire Strikes Back and things like that. But I feel like we saw Rey do that in her first appearance.
Right. And that's my thing. It's, there's this thing in me. It's always been in me. I don't know what to do with it. I need help.
Yeah.
She also, in episode 7, when she's testing her ability to control the stormtrooper, she at least knows how to try to do it. I mean, it's almost like she's seen a few Star Wars movies before, and she knows to say, "You will drop your weapon." And
she's heard of it.
Whereas Luke had to have that explained to him.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, that's just an instinct she has, I guess. And the same way she has an instinct to get the lightsaber towards her, and she's far more instinctive about these things than...
And, the same thing when she's fighting Kylo in The Force Awakens, she knows to just calm her mind and, let the Force do its thing. Which, again, Luke needed to have Ghost of Kenobi say, come on, just let go and turn off your computer.
Yeah. I like when Luke says, what did you think I was going to do? Show up with a laser sword and face the whole First Order on myself? First, the very deliberate use of laser sword instead of lightsaber. That's very meaningful that he puts it that way.
I agree.
And brilliant and smart.
How do you know I'm a Jedi? The laser
sword. Yeah. That's what civilians call them, like it's...
mopeds or,
And it sort of points up the ridiculousness of what is being suggested, and yet that is exactly what he does at the end of this movie.
Yeah, because lightsaber doesn't sound... I mean, it sounds just as silly, but we've heard it a million
times. And we expect it in this context.
Right.
He's like, what do you think? I'm a space hero who's going to show up with a laser sword? And he sort of mocks the whole idea, and this movie is very much about sort of challenging some of those tropes.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're symbolized by him throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder, which, when that happened, when I initially, the first time I was watching the movie, that was when I said, okay, I think I'm really going to like this one. That does it for me in just the right way.
I think I audibly went, because I thought it was gone.
I think Mark Hamill does great work here.
He does. He's fantastic. And I love that it's recognizably Luke, but clearly a Luke that has been through quite a lot. And it works really well for me.
I am not a fan of Mark Hamill's performance.
Are you?
I'm not. I know we're watching melodrama. I know he's nowhere near Palpatine's level of unlimited power and all that, but he's so aware of himself, and like the hood thing, it's like you can do that once, but you can't do that every time you take your hood off. And he's a little too grumpy. Like, I think he could have found some humor in there, and he didn't. He was just, I don't like it.
I quite do, and I do think there's humor in it. I really like some of the. It's beautiful when R2 replays Leia's message from episode 4. And Luke says that was a cheap move, which is very much what the audience might be thinking.
It was great. I thought, and I also liked his, reach out with the Force. You feel it, and he's got the piece of grass. It's playful and silly, and I dug it. But
I don't feel playful. I feel awkward when he does stuff like that. I feel like, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Mean.
I think and a lovely moment too for me is when he first sees Chewie, and Rey says, we'll explain it all to you in the Falcon, and concern breaks out over his face, and he says, where's Han?
Yeah. And Chewie's face is really moving there too. Like he,
Yeah.
he looks down in a way. It's a sad moment.
Yeah.
We cannot talk about that, about Chewie's reaction to Han's death, which, in the last movie, which is very much like Chewie's reaction when they have to shut the blast doors on Hoth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or when Han is frozen at the end of...
Right. Or when he sees Han down in the pit for the first time after he's gotten free. I mean, it's just, all Chewie has to do is make that noise, and that he's just God, he must miss.
And it's no matter how sophisticated Chewbacca is, at times like that, he's a puppy.
He's a dog, yeah.
Someone's puppy, and he's, his person is not coming home, and he's crestfallen, and it's adorable.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Anyway.
Yeah. Of all of the takes of Carrie Fisher slapping Poe.
No, I don't.
They shot that a lot. And someone has made a super cut of just slap, 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 slap. I've watched it over and over and over and over.
Oh, I've got to search.
I could watch her slap him all day. So let's talk about Admiral Holdo.
Yeah.
Who I think is, kind of a contentious character that a lot of people really do not like. Laura Dern is someone I never expected to see in a Star Wars movie, and certainly not in this kind of role. I wouldn't really have expected her to be the, more domineering Mon Mothma, which is kind of the role that she has.
I love Laura Dern. I don't want to see her in this movie. I don't think she did a very good job. I think they put her in a terrible outfit for her. Which is terrible to even bring up, but I just, there's some performances I really think are just incredibly awkward in this movie, and hers is one, and Mark Hamill's is another.
Wow, I love her in this movie. And I love how it's, I can see how we're led to kind of distrust and hate her, and then come around to her side and see the position that she's taking and why it works. I think she does that wonderfully. I love it.
She's sort of there specifically to slap our heroes in the face in the beginning. I think she does fine. I don't have any complaints about her performance, but I think I might have touched on this in one of our earlier episodes. There's a Star Wars tendency to take a role that is very underwritten and is sort of important in the story, but in terms of what actually happens on screen, there's not that much there. And then casting that role with a beloved actor who just brings natural gravitas and depth to everything. And I think that's what happens here. We've got an important narrative role to fill and not very many screen minutes to devote to it. But the eyes of Laura Dern will convey the depth that hasn't necessarily been written in.
We're skipping ahead here, but since we're talking about it, I love that 3PO cannot engage in a mutiny because it's against protocol. Yes. Which I think I'm going to start using it as an excuse for things I don't want to do. I'm going to say it's against protocol. I'm sorry.
It's against
I got to go.
And I am all about protocol. I am a protocol droid.
I am a square. Yes. That is so funny when he's like, no.
Yeah. Sorry, this is improper. I love 3PO. He's adorable. I also like, speaking of him and Admiral Holdo, when they're having the discussion where she's like, someone has to stay and fly this ship, and 3PO kind of like casually walks away in the background.
I didn't catch that.
Just a droid here. I couldn't press the buttons. I'm sure. I'm just going to go in the back here.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's cute.
You would have thought that they would have left the droid on and not a person.
Exactly. Yeah. No one seems to have thought of that.
There's autopilot. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think about this section of the movie is that Admiral Akbar deserved more of a hero's send-off.
I agree. I mean, I don't necessarily think he needed to die in a superheroic way, in a blaze of glory or anything, but I feel like if you blink, you miss the fact that Admiral Akbar has died. Aside from the fact that it's mentioned, we don't really notice it too directly.
Yeah, and it's he's been an admiral all this time. He has, he's really done served his alliance. And
Right.
it's his death is mentioned sort of incidentally. Admiral Akbar, we lost all our leadership.
That's what I was going to ask. Who else is in the leadership? So it's Akbar, it's all the leadership is gone. Who else is it?
Yeah, I do not know any of these new leaders because none of them seem like leaders that I know from.
And everybody who's still there is a general, basically, or an admiral. So where's this leadership coming from?
Right. I don't know.
I guess because the characters we've mostly been with are the ones who make it.
Who's the woman? What is her role? The woman who tells them that? Is she what's her rank or level or what?
I forget what. Let me see if I can find her.
She's the actress is.
Is she a general? What is her rank in this?
She's
thing?
a great theater actress, and her name is escaping me at the moment. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of that's always been the case. Like in the original movies too, the Rebel Alliance was much bigger than the characters we actually knew.
She's a commander. Her name is Commander Daisy.
Daisy?
Daisy.
Daisy.
Yep. She's one of those people that just has a.
And what's the actor's name?
I don't know. It's not on here.
I'll find it. I really want to know. I do know her name. She's a theater actress, and she's wonderful. Anyway, you can talk about other things.
I question whether some of her lines were pickup lines that were supposed to be for Leia, and then after the death of Carrie Fisher, she added those in.
I think she does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I love her performance.
Yeah,
me too.
Great.
Might be even too subtle for Star Wars, but
Amanda Lawrence is her name.
Well, of course she's going to be great.
Yeah, she was great. So let's, along with this scene, we have the much maligned and disliked Leia in space flying back into the ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
don't dislike it.
That, kind of why some people might roll their eyes at it, but I think taking a step back, we've seen much less realistic things in Star Wars than that. And it's beautifully done. I really just like the way that it looks. I love the music. I love the movement in it. I love the pacing of it. I think it's beautiful, and I don't care what anyone thinks.
I've got no problem with it, and I think it's an interesting way of addressing the fact that all these years we've kind of thought of Leia as very sort of force capable, but we've seen her do very little,
right?
And so when we finally do get, really for the first time in the entire saga, a very specific and very vivid example of Leia using powers that normal beings just shouldn't have, it's this really unusual thing. It's not like something we've seen Luke do a million times.
Right.
She's got her own thing.
Yeah,
I think it's great. And particularly because when this movie came out, the loss of Carrie Fisher was so fresh. It was especially moving that her character has this kind of resurrective moment.
Yeah, it worked really well in the context of the time, and it still works for me in the context of the film very well.
Hate it.
Really?
Hate it.
Really?
I know we're not dealing with the physics of space here because we wouldn't hear anything and blah, 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 and all the ships fall down and whatever. But okay. No Jedi even could get sucked out into outer space, into the freezing cold. They would implode and they would not make it. It's just not going to happen. Jedi are not superhuman. They can be killed. They have physical bodies. And
well, yeah, but they can create a bubble of the Force around themselves.
A Force bubble? This is like the Force
bubble.
Ghost and Force electricity and Force lightning that we just get later.
Right. There's also Force toast, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yes, I've seen commercials for that.
Force toast, yeah.
But I think it was the cheesiest, stupidest. I mean, you don't see any Jedi come out of that harsh of a situation. If they go into that situation, they're dead. Like, Luke can jump up onto the yacht or whatever, but if he got caught in the Sarlacc pit, he would not come out. He wouldn't float out and be like, I'm fine. It makes me crazy. I don't like it.
Well, I don't think she floated. I think she pulled herself. She pulled, the ship and whatever.
I find it sort of poetic, specifically because of its strangeness and its sort of unexplained qualities. You know, it's a sort of transcendent and poetic moment, I think.
I'm with you, Noah. Yeah.
But
I respect your opinion, Amanda. That's cool too.
I don't think anybody's ever been in that kind of situation where it's so clearly a death situation and they've been able to get themselves out.
Well, I mean, when she does obviously accomplish that with every amount of strength that she has, and when it gets back into the ship, she's immediately given oxygen, and she's unconscious for a period of time. It clearly takes everything out of her to do that. I'm not saying that explains it, but
yeah, I mean,
she doesn't do it easily and casually.
I think, but nothing in Star Wars is really possible, and for me, that's part of the fun. So I've kind of been baffled by just how much this bothers people.
Yeah, I mean, it's outside of anything. It's like no Jedi has ever been set on fire and come out of it. It's just like there's.
But I feel like there's so many, like in Empire Strikes Back, by that point, no one had ever called a lightsaber to their hand. It was a totally new thing.
That's fine, but that's I'm talking about their physical bodies, which they still have until they become Force ghosts. They may be good fighters or defenders of that physical body, but they're still going to die if that. Well, I don't know. If their physical body gets cut in half, maybe they won't die. Maybe they'll get little.
Yeah, Darth Maul just got some spider legs, and he was fine.
The movie climaxes with Luke using a previously unheard of force power. That they're expanding the frontiers of what they're capable of. I wonder if, I know this isn't your problem with it, Amanda, but I wonder if some of the people who criticized this sequence, maybe they were like many critics of this movie, not all, but many, maybe the simple demonstration of female agency on the screen was irritating to them.
I mean, that's definitely the case for a lot of detractors of this movie. I think that there's very direct female power being applied to, the whole thing with Holdo and...
they don't want to see Holdo smack.
It's like, all right, guys, you need to just sit down. We're going to take care of this for a second.
Well, let's talk about the other big female in this movie.
The creature who Luke milks.
Ain't she a beaut?
Oh, my God. It's like Frogmoth all over again. And your pin is reminding me of Frogmoth, too.
All right.
I'm going to get you a Frogmoth pin. A Frogmoth
Please.
I will.
I'll try not to swallow it.
I'll bet you were about to talk about Rose Tico.
Yes, I was.
Let's talk about Rose. Yeah.
First of all, I think I mentioned this before. If you looked at the woman playing her sister and her next to each other, and you said, which one of these is going to die first? You would you'd say, she dies first, and the beautiful, skinnier one. It's not the type that you think is going to. Because when we're watching battles and space battles, the overweight guys always die in a very uncourageous way.
Yeah. Porkins.
So you kind of figured that she's going to go, but she doesn't, and that's very interesting. That
it is, and
she's not beautiful at all.
Yeah. She's cute. I think she's really cute, but she's not glamorous.
She's not Hollywood glamorous.
Yeah. And also, I think that it's pretty easy to kind of see her as a stand-in for many of the female Star Wars fans who were just continually marginalized, despite their very tight working knowledge of Star Wars. And she's very perceptive. She instantly figures out what's going on. She loves Star Wars, but wait a minute, something's not right with it.
She's able to. She has this hero worship of Finn when she first encounters him.
Yeah,
but she's able to, when she realizes that he's deserting, she's able to turn on a dime and assert her authority and shock him.
Well,
and then she ends up delivering, kind of a big part of the message of the film, which is, it's not so much about fighting what you hate, it's saving what you love. And it's very blatantly given, but it works.
And in the
end,
the love you take is equal to the love you make.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
It is true, actually.
I mean, as long as you get the right ingredients, and sometimes you have to have them imported.
Or as Yoda would put it, the love you take is equal to the love you make.
make you the love tape?
I think it's already, yeah.
One minor thing I have about the rose, and I'm not sure if the rose, I'm not sure if this is the case. It's just a feeling I have, is that it seems like there's a possibility that an earlier draft of the script had no rose, had Finn and Poe doing all the things that happened together, and it was really going to be Poe delivering the line that you save what you love. And that it was going to be a kind of a romantic thing going on between Finn and Poe, and that was deemed, we really can't, we don't think we can go that far and actually make them a gay romantic couple here. So let's introduce a woman to kind of take over that slightly romantic angle.
But didn't we all think that Poe and Finn were going to get together? Because when and then when I saw this, when they kissed and Finn was like into it, I thought, oh my God, like first time it totally surprised me. I thought, because Finn and Poe were clearly going to get together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Finn and Poe shippers out there, for sure.
There are, and it's not unjustified. I mean, in The Force Awakens, their interactions are kind of hot.
Yeah, and the jacket thing, you know.
The jacket thing is very much like my high school boyfriend. It really is.
Who is? Which one?
What?
Finn or Poe is like your high school boyfriend?
No,
No,
jacket
neither of
thing.
them. I'm just saying it's like you're wearing his jacket. It's like it's kind of like you wear your boyfriend's jacket.
It's interesting too that, I mean, Finn and Rey have this closeness, and you know, they're very concerned about each other. They are they're kind of each other's first friend in a way, who has cared about and looked after each other. And when Finn awakens at the beginning of this movie, the first thing he wants to know is where Rey is. And so Finn and Rey have this platonic, not romantic, very close bond. And Rey also has a similarly close bond with Kylo Ren, which is, although there is some sexual tension there, it's not, certainly not explicitly a romantic or sexual thing. And now into those two sort of ill-defined or undefined dynamics, there's a sort of, it's the whisper of a kind of love story developing with Finn and Rose, but that too is not clear. It's not clear where that's going.
Right, and I would be perfectly happy if none of these romantic things, ever panned out in any way.
Yeah, we don't all have to couple up in these movies.
Right.
I think one thing I want to go back to is Kylo and Rey. And when they touch for the first time, he takes his glove off to touch her, and they touch skin to skin. But then the end, when he's saying, join me, he doesn't take his glove off. He offers out his gloved hand, which is much more like Vader and everything else. And it's not skin to skin. It's not intimate. It's become this barrier. And I love that. I love that at the beginning when they touch hands, it's so intimate and like, hug me, I need love. And then the second one, he's like, no, I'm already here. I'm covered up, And
he put a shirt on by that point.
That was hilarious.
It's so funny. And I love that she comments on it. Like, do you have a towel?
Do you have a towel or anything?
Just
thankfully though, he walks out of frame and like into frame, so you can.
I just realized there's something. Does anyone lose an arm in this episode?
No, I was going to say that too. No, nobody loses an arm in this one or the last one.
Or the last one. That's very un-Star Wars. We better see a lot of limbs cut off.
Arms
in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
No one,
I want to see a Wookiee rip.
It should be the subtitle should be a farewell to arms.
No, I want to see a Wookiee rip a man's arms off, because I have ever since I saw that, and we've never seen it.
Yeah, we did in Solo, didn't we?
You ripped a man's arms off?
Didn't he rip someone's arms off in Solo?
I don't know. I was probably asleep or yawning.
I think it did happen, or it seems like there's something where I've seen a Wookiee rip arms off.
I like Wookiee.
So let's talk about Canto Bight.
Yeah, they're sent there by Maz Kanata, who gets a pretty brief cameo in this movie.
Sadly, I would have liked to have seen more of her. It was still a fun little cameo, but there wasn't that much. And I do like that. Unlike the kind of sage characters that have preceded her, she's very rough and tumble, and seems to be maybe even have a somewhat dubious moral compass.
She's not enlightened in any way.
Right.
She's clutching to the wheel of the earth.
She's pretty realistic and down to earth. Yeah.
Yes.
but with a reverence for the Force. Clearly, she seems to not be a Jedi or be in tune with the Force, but she knows the Force. She's studied.
That's what she says in episode 7, right?
Yeah.
I'm no Jedi, but I know the Force.
So I think her relationship with the Force seems to be kind of scholarly. Like, you know, she's only got 5 midichlorians, but she has read everything.
And she's been around for so long. You know, she's
Right.
seen Force go up, Force go down.
I've seen the Force go up. It's like the Dow.
Like the stock market to her. She has a jetpack though, it seems, and that's really cool.
Which is cute. Yeah, I love it. So she sends them to Canto Bight.
Now, is that where the fish is singing with the woman?
Where the fish is singing with the woman?
Or with the woman with the speaker mouth, and there's a fish or something in it?
No. That's in Solo.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, it should have been this one.
But I mean, so, you know, as we were mentioning last episode, Canto Bight to me is, you know, the way I like to see a Valentine to the Mos Eisley Cantina done. You know, this is a corner of the galaxy we haven't seen before, and it's clearly beautifully a nod to that. I love that Rose calls it, you know, it's a place with the worst people in the galaxy. Just, you know, it's a wretched hive of scum and villainy, and so we're expecting it to be roughnecks and bleep holes, and it ends up being
the Platinum Edition.
Exactly. And I love the design of it. It's very 20s Erte kind of Art Deco. And just watching all of the pompous creatures is fantastic. It's one of my favorite scenes.
I agree with that. I like all of that about it. But I do think this movie in general, one of the areas where I find it ever so slightly disappointing, but also similar to Empire, is that for me, the creature design and the use of creatures in this movie is somewhat below par. To me, the are they called Fathiers?
Fathiers?
Fathiers. The Fathiers and the crystal foxes later, and even the porgs, which they're cute, but I feel all of this is slightly underbaked. And
oh man, I feel totally the opposite. I love the creature design in this one. It's The Force Awakens where I'm not that thrilled with the creature design.
The Force Awakens doesn't have as many like memorable creatures who play a role in the story. But yeah, I don't know. The porgs I can go along with a little more easily. The Fathiers, I don't know. They just they look like
horse dogs.
They look like what?
Horse dogs. They're horse dogs.
They are horse dogs. They remind me a little bit of the Never-Ending Story.
Yes.
They're fine, but
one of the things I love about that is, you know, as they steal the Fathiers to escape, and Finn is like, "Stop enjoying this."
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're not allowed to enjoy this kind of thing in a Star Wars movie. No. I dug it.
Yeah, the Crystal Foxes too. It all feels a little un-Star Wars-like to me. And
I love the Crystal Foxes. They might be my favorite thing in this movie, design-wise.
You don't want to cuddle with them. It hurts.
Yeah, well, you just put marshmallows on the spikes and you can kind of...
It's one of those things where I feel like, you know, sound editors and the sound designers aren't going to get enough credit, that you have to think like these little crystal foxes are in that soundtrack, a sound bed all the time, up and down and up until they're gone, and then you do notice it when somebody points it out. But that's really good sound work. It's really good.
I love the when we see the master code breaker, the one who Maz has actually sent them to see, who has the insignia on his lapel. I love what the music does when we land on him, and he looks very like classic Hollywood, and the music gets very like this cheesy swell of strings. It sounds like music you'd hear in like a commercial for a cruise line or something.
And then he says, "There's the shuttle parkers."
The shuttle parkers! Opening for Glenn Miller. It's the shuttle park.
And they end up in jail, or
right,
whatever, a cell with
DJ, who is, first of all, I mean, I always like him, but there's something about him in this movie that I find really cute.
I was saying to Noah while we were watching it, there are so many choices that could be made about this character.
Yes.
And, I mean, who would read the script and say, okay, this is what I want to do?
It's such a weird choice to do.
So weird. And the stuttering and the tics and the, it works. It absolutely
works so well. He's really endearing, and but you don't trust him necessarily, but you kind of want to. And I wanted to see more of him. I don't know if there's room for him to appear again in the next.
Well, he died probably.
What?
He died probably.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
But
it reminds me a lot of. It's a different set of choices, but the nature of the choices reminds me of a little bit of Forrest Whitaker in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, that's a whole different thing to do with a Star Wars character.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at a different, more nuanced way of approaching what's going on in the galaxy, and I think that's valuable. And, you know, his name is DJ. It's short for Don't Join. It says Don't Join in Arabesh on his hat. So
he's also a little bit, while it is a new character in many ways, both performance and in the text, he's also a little bit like Han Solo, and as when we met him, he's a kind of works on the fringes of this conflict, you know, and he's kind of a scruffy looking nerf herder too.
But I think that he kind of takes the place of Lando in this, you know, if we're drawing analogies to Empire Strikes Back, he's the Lando of this. And you know,
and
he
squints and does this. He looks just like Lenny Bruce when Lenny Bruce squints and does this. But no one said that would be really bad casting.
If Lenny Bruce played this part?
No, if Benicio del Toro played Lenny Bruce.
Oh,
you told me that
in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, Lenny Bruce. He just happened to be okay. So I also I think that he's an important character in that while there have been little flickering hints of this here and there in the movies, maybe, and it's been explored a little more in the extended material. You know, he points out that war profiteering is where the real evil is, and you know, you're being played by these rich assholes on both sides. And
it is very, very much about us, and the business that makes the most money is war. Mm-hmm. So everybody gets rich is war.
So
yeah, that's very much where The Empire Strikes Back it emerges as the clear model here. It complicates the morality of the initial good versus evil story.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that I really fervently defend the Canto Bight section of the film that a lot of people malign, and they don't like it because they feel it doesn't affect the plot. I kind of feel like that misses the point of the plot. I feel like, you know, a lot of the plot is heroes make big mistakes, and you know, we need to look at their humanity, and Canto Bight is an example of that kind of failed attempt.
It also sets up, I know we'll talk about it when we get there, but it also sets up the coda at the very end of this movie, which is very powerful and unique in the Star Wars saga, and relies on this sequence for, you know, its basis. At the very end when we see the kids, you know.
Oh yeah, exactly. And you know, I mean, I think that too is a thing that many people who feel like Disney is not handling their favorite thing ever in the right way, they really don't like those kids being a part of it, because Star Wars is not for children.
You know, we were talking about Finn and that he shouldn't be able to hold his own in a laser sword duel, but you know, that kid who clearly the force is strong with him because he holds out his hand and the broom comes flying into it, and the last thing you see is holding it up and it looks like a, you know, a laser sword. Maybe, and we were just saying maybe Finn did, you know, play with that with his brooms, and that's how he knew how to do it.
It's quite possible Finn played with brooms.
I have to plug in my computer, so you guys keep talking.
Oh, okay. But no, I mean, I think that the Canto Bight is kind of central to what Last Jedi does. And
yeah,
you know, and I also feel like, you know, Luke commenting on you know, how the Force isn't owned by the Jedi. It's not like this is something that is only the purview of the Jedi, and that the Jedi's hubris was what was ultimately not just their undoing, but the undoing of the Republic and all of that. I think that it's kind of a message more of, no, this is, everyone has this in them. Everyone can use this in some way, and maybe some people are better at it than others or more attuned than others, but it's in all of us.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the big points and themes of this particular episode. It comes out in the way this episode handles the question of Rey's parentage and origins, in this little side story about these kids on Canto Bight, and in a lot of what Luke teaches Rey. You know, we're clearly challenging the idea that heroism or the ability to use the Force, this isn't just a genetic thing that, you know, you have to have the mighty Skywalker blood in your veins, that anyone is at least potentially a user of the Force, and anyone is at least potentially a hero in the Resistance.
Yeah, agreed. I just want to note that I think Old Man Snoke's boudoir is a great phrase.
That's a good band name or a venue.
Right, yeah. They performed at Old Man Snoke's boudoir, you know, back before they sold out.
I think
You're referring to the vast red room where he and
yeah.
It's also
a team jacket, that kind of. You know,
by the way, the red room there was partially inspired by the red room in Twin Peaks.
Was it really?
Yeah, I read that the designers said that they wanted to give a nod to, you know, this kind of space that the Black Lodge evokes, and just wanted to have it be a much more grand scale. So we don't have the jagged floors, but we do have basically red drapes.
And all the guys in red.
Yeah.
Whatever those people are.
Oh, the guards. By the way, I Masaharu pointed this out, and I totally agree that the fight between those guards and Kylo and Rey is much more knight-like than we've seen in any other Star Wars fight. There's a heaviness to it. Their armor is very knight-like. It's much more Arthurian, and in fact, this whole trilogy so far, at least these first two installments, have been a lot more Arthurian in their mythology.
I like the whole like nunchunk thing, quality of the thing, so I couldn't go and like pull her, like, and you get all Kill Bill on me. I love it.
It also clearly feels like an evolution of the Emperor's Royal Guards in episode 6.
Right.
The Imperial Guard, is that who that is?
Or the Praetorian
Emperor's
Guard.
Royal Guards, I think they were called. Yeah.
I think the characters were called the Emperor's Royal Guard.
Okay.
But I think they're also referred to sometimes as the Praetorian Guard, which is an ancient Roman reference. This is the first time we ever see Snoke in his actual physical form.
He's pretty big still.
He is big, yeah. And he's really creepy looking, and I did not really care for him as a character at all in The Force Awakens. In this installment, I find him interesting and genuinely threatening.
Yeah, he is actually scary, and I was thinking some of the close-ups on his face. Andy Serkis does a great job with Snoke, but he's a disturbing and scary villain. He clearly reminds us of Palpatine in some ways, but it's a face that we haven't seen that before. That kind of specific face, but it's very Star Warsy.
It's very Crypt Keeper-y too, but he's also like missing piece of
right, and he's got the big scar. We assume that it looks like he was struck by a lightsaber head on.
I'm gonna do it. I'm sorry. Our front door is buzzing. Well,
okay.
Now he's gone. Did you get it?
Sorry, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't.
You need to run to the front door?
No, like when you buzz, it rings our phones. It's weird.
Oh. Okay.
So Snoke, he's kind of Crypt Keeper-ish. He seems intimidating, but he's not so in control of himself that he seems as intimidating as our other villains, because he's a little too like, smug.
He looks like he needs a walker, kind of.
Yeah, and he's also like smug and like, I know this and I know that, and I'm gonna tell you all about it. And he tries to be flashy. I don't know. He just doesn't seem like a Vader or a Palpatine or anything like that, who's just like dark and.
Yeah, Vader or Palpatine would not wear silk.
No. And they also wouldn't be like, I feel it. I mean, well, they would, but they do it in a different way. I'm not a fan of Snoke either.
But I mean, I am.
When he gets chopped in half, and then Hux is standing next to him, and the bottom half of his body falls off the chair, I think that's one of the funniest parts of any movie.
I was so taken by surprise by that. I mean, as you get closer to it, you notice, you expect it and anticipate it, but I wasn't expecting that to happen prior to the battle. And it's a great moment. I love the way that it happens.
Yeah.
But I also, watching it this time, realized that this means that Kylo was specifically able to deceive Snoke in terms of his intentions.
No, because his intentions were to turn on the light, to get his lightsaber and aim it true or something like that.
Aim it at strike down his true enemy. But he's still, Kylo, I would think, would have to block the fact that the true enemy is not Rey.
I don't know about that. I think, like, if you can sort of see, like, evil is the dark side clouds things it does or whatever.
Oh yeah, okay, fair. I'll concede that. But it's a great scene. I love it. It's one of my favorite fight scenes. It perhaps goes on a little too long, but I can say that about any action scene I've seen more than once.
I love
There's a moment, and like Rey is obviously, there's a moment where you're allowed to hope that perhaps Kylo turning on Snoke means that he's also turning on the dark side.
Yes.
And he and Rey, for, momentarily have to fight as a team, which is very, fun to watch. Them, pick off all these Imperial guards or whoever they are. But as you pointed out before, his, entreaty for Rey to join him feels much darker than it did earlier in the movie. And
yeah, but I mean, of course, it mirrors Vader's invitation to Luke. But I feel like Kylo's invitation seems so much more tempting than Vader's did.
It's sincere, kind of,
yeah.
in a way.
Yeah,
I feel like it's very much like the scene in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade when Elsa's going for the Grail and she's like, I can almost get it. And I feel like he makes that switch to that and she can't get him back.
Yeah.
Like he makes the switch to, wait a minute. Now nobody's in charge. Now I can be, you can be. And that's where, the turn happens.
There's a metatextual element to some of this also. It's time to let old things die. It's another element of this movie which says, let's muddy up this simple good versus evil storyline a little bit. Let's put our old toys away a little bit,
Right, and Yoda also puts his 2 cents in on that when he says, we are what they grow beyond.
I love the Yoda scene so much.
It probably is my favorite bit in this whole movie, and I love this movie a lot. But It was so lovingly done. I don't know who the puppeteer is. It's not Frank Oz, though, right?
I don't know. I assume they did use a puppet for Yoda, but
woo! I'm pretty sure I read that it was not Frank Oz, but whoever does it does an excellent job of puppeteering. And also, I think that the design of Yoda, while very reminiscent of the Yoda from The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, is a little more Buddha-like than he was before.
He's a little less illuminated than most Force ghosts have been so
He
far.
seems a little more solid.
Yeah.
But setting up what Luke does, later, like in these advanced Jedi, they do develop the ability to sort of project themselves convincingly into the world. And it's also like, there's some question, like, what determines the form a Force ghost will take? Like, Vader is redeemed and his Force ghost is, in the current edition anyway, young Anakin, So should Yoda look the way he looked when he died in Return of the Jedi? He looks a little healthier here than he did then, He's sort of his best self in some sense. And I think the Yoda scene in this movie, it made me soften my feelings a little bit about spoilers. I've always been, as you've heard me say countless times, like I don't mind spoilers. I want spoilers. I like to know everything in advance. If enjoying the movie depends on not knowing anything about it, how good could it be? So I've never minded spoilers, and I've usually sought them out. However, it so happens that I guess I didn't immerse myself too much in written material before seeing episode VIII, and I didn't know Yoda was going to be in this movie. And seeing him was such a wonderful surprise. And I enjoyed so much that it happened unexpectedly that it made me think, oh, I can't deny that that would not have been as thrilling to me if I went in thinking, oh, Yoda's going to be in this. I wonder when we're going to see him.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me feel not spoiler averse, but it made me feel a little more like protecting my ignorance going into some of this stuff, more than I ever did before.
And also, like, I love the burning down the tree. But what
Page-turners, they were not.
Page-turners, they were not. Yeah, and also, I think while there's, you know, lots of, like, in-universe, in-story reasons that scene works perfectly, I think that in a lot of ways that was supposed to be a reference to the legend stories that, you know,
Yes.
when Disney was like, no, we're not going to keep all of that
really
stuff,
funny.
you guys. Sorry, but no.
Very funny.
Read the Timothy Zahn books you had? Page-turners, they were not.
Timothy Zahn is from this town, by the way.
You told me that. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't mean to knock his books, by the way.
No, I really dig those books. They came out at just the right time. I loved them when I was a teenager. I'm sure if I reread them now, I would still enjoy them enough. And it's clear that so much of new Star Wars is giving lots of nods to those specific books and to things that came, you know, as a result of their influence. So it's cool.
Yeah, early attempts to continue beyond
something
the original
I had
trilogy.
not really considered until I saw the movie a couple of times is that Rey must have just stolen those books.
The Jedi texts?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, does she have them later?
She does. In the Falcon, when Finn goes to look for something afterwards, he opens a drawer and the books are in there.
I just thought they were other
Oh.
books.
No, those are the exact same Jedi books. So I think Rey just had to have taken them. Luke thought they were still in the tree. Yoda is a ghost, and I assume Force ghosts can't be like, take these books and store them in the Falcon, I will. So it had to be Rey just taking them.
I mean, you're right, because it wouldn't make such a point of you seeing those books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I did, and I said, those look like, you know, the Jedi
So-
books. Maybe they all look like that.
This to me seems kind of a bit more aiming at that whole gray Jedi kind of thing where she's not 100% good. She's willing to kind of do some things that are maybe a little less light side of the Force in order to achieve her ends.
That's like, I mean, it's very much like Luke. I mean, Luke is not a happy, bright man all the time, you know?
No, I want to know where Luke's green lightsaber went, by the way. Where is that?
Does he have the green lightsaber in the flashbacks?
He does. And it's
he
the same
does.
lightsaber that he made just before Return of the Jedi. So it's the same lightsaber he had, theoretically, or at least it looks exactly like that lightsaber.
Well, we see his X-wing sunken in the waters off the coast of this island. Maybe
It's in
he
there.
just threw it all away.
Mm-hmm. Other questions I have, the dice. So we see Luke get on the Falcon. He takes the dice.
Right.
He then later gives them to Leia in his Force Ghost vision. She leaves them, so we assume she knew they weren't real.
We see her leave them?
We don't see her leave them, but why? If she thought they were actually Han's dice, would she just be like, "Ah, fuck it, we're escaping, let's go," you know? And then Kylo finds them, picks them up, and they disappear in his hand.
Yeah.
I think that when Luke touches Leia, she realizes he is not there.
Yeah, she
And
must.
I think that when she opens her hand and sees the dice, she knows that they're not real either.
Yeah, I think you're right, 100%.
And Kylo may not.
But that must mean where are the actual physical dice now? Did Luke leave them on the Falcon? Did he leave them on Octo? Is there going to be a return to Octo in Rise of Skywalker?
Maybe the dice were like Alec Guinness, and when they struck him down,
They became more powerful?
yes.
Are you thinking that maybe the dice disappeared when Luke died? Like it vanishes because it was an illusion that he was generating?
Yeah, I think that's and those were the dice were just his way of conveying something to Leia, rather than,
It's interesting how these dice which are such an incidental, hardly even noticeable thing in episode 4, have now, over the course of 3 recent films, become this all-important, totemic object.
Right.
They've always been that way for me. They really the dice figured in a lot more to the extended universe stuff. They were apparently the dice that he won the Falcon with, and there was all this lore attached to them. And
but we see him win the Falcon, not with those
not
dice.
with those dice, yes. But historically, that's kind of what
that was the idea.
The idea was that they were the dice he won the Falcon with, and I loved the dice being there just because at the time that the first Star Wars film came out, fuzzy dice on the rearview mirror was a thing, and so it's just cute that there are dice there.
Yeah.
So what was I forgot where I was going. I feel like this is the one most recent Star Wars movie that the more I watch it, the more I feel I confirm my initial reaction of really loving it. I love it more every time I watch it. My opinion of it hasn't necessarily changed, but has maybe deepened. And there have been a few things I've noticed too on repeated viewings that I like less. But it's not like with Rogue One, where I really came out of it not liking it all that much. And the more I've watched it, the more I've really come to love it. With this one, I pretty much instantly loved it, and that's just developed more.
I think this one hits a design level that no other Star Wars movie has hit. The design of everything is just very important, very beautiful. Like I told Noah, like the salt planet with the red and the
gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that you can see which, like, it kind of implies that Luke knows which way Kylo's going to swing because his feet move, and just beautiful.
Well, and that was how the first time that I watched it, I realized that Luke was doing the force projection thing because he doesn't make slides.
And just something I noticed today is that when they all get in the trenches and the guy reaches over and he touches it and he tastes it and he turns to the guy next to him and he goes, "It's salt." The guy next to him is Gareth Edwards.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And I saw him and I was like, "That's him." And we went back and it is.
I wanted Gareth Edwards to direct episode 9.
I just so don't want him to tell us they're all in purgatory.
How about when Luke says, "This is not going to go the way you think"? That's a speaking to the audience moment.
It really
too,
is, and I kind of saw that as like a trailer moment. Like we have this line in here,
right,
so that people can expect the unexpected in a certain sense.
Yeah.
It almost is a little forced. I mean, it does work in context, but
there's a couple of moments. I've always felt a little uneasy or just not quite liked the moment in Empire Strikes Back when Han is going out to look for Luke, and he's told that this means certain death, and he says, "Well, then I'll see you in hell," because hell shouldn't be part of the mythology these characters live with. Like, a reference to hell doesn't really make sense here. And this movie has 2 other moments that seem vaguely in the same category. When Holdo says, what?
The Judeo-Christian.
Yeah, a little bit. When Holdo says, "Godspeed, rebels," like,
I felt, that I kind of felt the same way.
With not very Star Warsy.
And also, I feel like Rose and her sister's necklaces, these are clear yin-yangs, and it's transparent that you're playing to the Chinese market here.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Godspeed
rebels. Like,
I don't mind playing to the Chinese market. The yin-yang thing, it's like bringing a specific philosophy in that already exists. Like you say, Judeo-Christian hell. Although in A New Hope, it's not exactly the same kind of thing, but Owen does say there will be hell to pay.
Oh,
so hell has been used from the beginning, but it's not quite the same meaning.
"I'll see you in hell" so clearly refers to the way we think of hell in Christian mythology. And there's another, and "Godspeed, rebels," to me, it's just like, well, we're saying "May the Force be with you" too many times. We got to put something else there.
Yeah.
And then there's another moment when Poe says, I have 2 issues with this line, although it's a nice moment. Poe says, "Let's just pray pray. Prayer would seem to be not part of this Force-centered
They
mythology.
might have a pantheon. We just haven't heard about it.
And no one ever talks about praying or prayer in these movies. But as if that weren't bad enough, he says, let's just pray that big ass door holds long enough to get us help. Big ass?
I had not noticed the big ass until this viewing for some reason. And then as soon as I did notice it, I imagined that it was a big ass door.
You hadn't noticed the big ass until this time?
Yeah, now I saw that big ass.
Mm.
That is not very Star Wars, because that is a phrase of the
Kylo was
last...
trying to tap that big ass with his whole armada of gorilla AT-ATs.
You never heard anybody say in the original films, like, that's no
a
moon,
shit
that's a
ton of
big-ass space station.
I would love to hear Alec Guinness say big ass.
This
In
place is
any
lousy
context.
with the Empire.
You've taken your first step into a big-ass world.
So
We're
I
really
also
in the
love
shit
when
now.
Kylo Ren, when the Millennium Falcon flies in, and Kylo Ren is like, shoot that ship out of the sky. I realized that it's like, it's my dad's fucking truck.
Yes.
You know, it's like his dad's old junker thing that he had to deal with his whole life, probably.
But he also has probably in him, you know, a connection to that ship from the past. So what he's doing is he's killing all the past, killing everything,
Mhm.
taking everything away. So yeah, it's
Right.
like, get my fucking dad's refrigerator out of my porch, you know, or what, I don't know.
Right. He's had it with his family.
Clearly.
And but that whole sequence with, you know, firing on Luke,
Love it.
there are no surprises happening there, but it still is beautifully done to me. I love when he steps out and does this.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I think that moment would be great if it wasn't him doing it. I think he's so awkward and weird. Like, that should be okay, but I don't like
I loved it.
I love it. I really
loved
do.
it. And
And I
there
also
were a lot
love
of
the way...
people- But go ahead.
Well, I love that whole sequence. I love the way the movie, while in many ways denying us these kinds of moments, it actually does give us an all-powerful Luke Skywalker single-handedly facing down this impossible order of, you know, magnitude of the First Order. I think it's great, and it does let him kind of play the superhero at the end.
And I like that it does it in a way that I would not have predicted. And
Right.
And I think that, you know, there were a lot of fans that really, there were many times in the books, the post Return of the Jedi books and comics and other extended universe things, where Luke had a similar face down, where it was Luke against all these, usually there were some AT-ATs or some kind of machinery and lots of ships. And he would, you know, jump around and cut off their heads and knock them all down with the Force, and he was just this superhuman thing. And I think they wanted to see that kind of like big action sequence with one Luke taking on all of these different apparati. So when that didn't happen, they felt really cheated by it, because it looked like it was about to happen and then it didn't.
Yeah.
Which for me was a great tease. I love the way that it played out instead. And I'm sorry other people can't appreciate it, but I'm glad I get to.
It's also it's like a different Luke. Like the Luke who is projected into that scene, that's maybe more like what we thought old Luke, or what maybe we might have hoped old Luke would be, you know, more of an older warrior who's still very much in the fight, you know, rather than the Luke we meet on Ahch-To, which is, I don't challenge it as a narrative choice. It's convincing. It's fine with me. But, you know, this is a Luke who has given up and sort of let himself go physically. And, you know, now the Luke that we see in that projection has been obviously using Just for Men. He's professionally groomed.
He's quite preen. He just came from the beard trimmer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if he was going to be a hermit out on this island for that long, he would not be that well kept.
Haru pointed out something I hadn't noticed, though, that was like all the physical stuff Luke does at the beginning in Ahch-To, where he's like doing the pole vaulting things and all of that. He's doing that without the Force. All of the stuff he does, he's cut himself off from the Force, so he's not using the Force. He's just being pretty physically dexterous.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Hanks did it.
Yes.
In the new Mr. Rogers movie?
Yes, it's like
He pole vaults? I can't wait to see Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers pole vaulting.
yeah, well, it's like part of the land of make-believe.
Oh, okay. And does he drink seal milk or?
He just stabs fish.
Lady Elaine's okay.
No.
Yeah, I'll go a different direction. And I think I think it's beautiful, if not too on the nose, that Octo has a twin sun.
Yeah.
Twin sun system as well.
I wondered about that. Is that it? Is it that Octo there are two suns visible there, or is Luke sort of hallucinating back to his childhood vision?
We asked that when we watched it today, and it is Octo, according to this at least, does have. It's a binary system, so
fair enough. It is certainly
it's very
lovely,
fitting that Luke starts and ends with twin suns.
Exactly, yeah.
And I love how quietly he fades away.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it is nice, and as Luke himself says in the scene with Leia, no one's ever really gone, and the Luke's death scene here doesn't feel like as sad a loss as Han's in the previous film because. We know we're going to see Luke again.
Yeah, we're going to see a Force ghost Luke, or at very least hear his voice. I think it'd be weird if we don't see him as a Force ghost, but
he's going to be back. He'll be back.
Yeah.
So will I.
Oh my God.
Dun 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 dun.
Like, I'm in the same apartment and I don't even know where he's going. He could be coming in here.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't like Luke. It just seems like he's in a different movie than everybody else. The way his style, I just don't like it. I don't know why. He makes me embarrassed to watch him.
Really?
Cringe sometimes. I don't know why.
I don't know. It worked for me, but I was thinking, especially since we watched The Empire Strikes Back, that I have to admit, and this is a weird thing for me to say, I think, but I just have a lot less reverence for these movies than other people do. Like, I really... like when Noah was saying how beautifully he thinks The Empire Strikes Back came together and characterized these, things and made it a much more human kind of science fiction than had previously been there. While I do agree with that, I don't think it's that much better. And compared to other, more dramatic films, it's just silly.
Sure.
So it was like when I was 9, I really thought that The Empire Strikes Back was, this amazing piece of work, and now I think it's just a fun, goofy little movie. But I feel that way about all the Star Wars movies, and I like fun, goofy movies.
I don't take them as seriously, I think, as most, because I didn't become a fan, or like, I liked them, but I didn't know as much about them, and I wouldn't have been able to sit here and talk, ask questions or whatever, till later in my life. But I also, my favorite movie when I was growing up, which is weird, and it's just because it was on HBO back when HBO only like rotated 2 movies for like 3 weeks, was Gandhi.
Gandhi.
So once you start sticking me in front of, like Star Wars, I'm like, okay, I don't think it's that serious. I'm not going to take it that seriously.
Yeah. So I guess like I don't really expect great performances in a Star Wars movie. I don't. And in fact, I really, if the performances were too good, it would pull me out of it. I wouldn't enjoy it. It wouldn't have that B-movie quality that I love about Star Wars.
I want to ask Noah. Noah, do you think the acting is better in Empire Strikes Back, or The Last Jedi, or Gandhi?
The Empire Strikes Back, The Last Jedi, or Gandhi?
Yeah.
I think all 3 of these movies are examples of movies where the acting is just right for what's called for in this film.
Do you think you could replace any of the characters in any of the movies?
Sure. I think, wait.
I would like to see Hux as Nehru.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that
Absolutely.
be great? Yeah.
He already has the collar. It's there.
Commander Hux!
I really love The Supreme Leader is Dead. Long live the Supreme Leader.
Yeah.
It's just because I love that phrase. I love that whole thing of the Queen.
It's a great way to say something, but the way that it happens here, it's a very quick and easy and entertaining way to say, you're just going to obey me, and that's how this goes.
And we haven't seen a Force choke since Vader, right?
I don't think we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His Palpatine's just gonna shoot him with lightning. He's not gonna choke anybody.
But we did see some lightning from
We did.
Yoda.
Well, from Yoda. Well, now that one didn't come out of Yoda though.
Not out of him.
Called the lightning from the sky, which is different from lightning coming from him, which Snoke does.
Snoke does,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But for him, it's a little different than the Emperor would use. The Emperor just kind of shot it directly at you. He kind of like shoots it down to make Kylo Ren fly up.
Is he a Sith?
I think he's not a Sith. So this might be a good time to kind of segue a little into, we're at the end of this and where is this leading? Because Rise of Skywalker is coming up very soon.
Real soon.
So
next month.
What are some of our predictions in relation to what we've just seen? Because I don't know if I feel confident about this or strongly about this, but I would not be terribly surprised if it really is Palpatine has been pulling Snoke's strings all along. This is all part of Palpatine's long game.
Everything is part of his long game.
And, he's
Excuse me.
put all his pieces in place that these heroes can come together and make what he needs to happen.
Yeah.
And Snoke was one of his pawns.
Well,
that does seem like a distinct possibility. And also possibly that Rey is somehow part of Palpatine's plan, that he may be responsible for her existence in one form or another, the way he might have been responsible for Anakin's.
I realize everyone else and their dog would hate it for this to happen, but I would love for Palpatine to be like, and then I controlled the midichlorians to make you Rey. I would, that I would love it.
it's from last time. Who will we see again? And I think we should go through it again because these are predictions. So everybody thinks we're going to see Anakin or Vader again.
I think definitely, at least in a flashback.
The Vader helmet has already been seen in the trailers for episode 9.
The unburned one or the burned one?
The burned one. The way it looked in episode 7.
And the trailer looks like they're smashing Vader down, but
it does.
Yeah, that happens in the 3rd trailer, and then since then there's been, it's not really another trailer, but there was an Instagram and Facebook and so on little teaser that just has a bunch of quick shots in it. But one of them is a shot we haven't seen before of Rey like face to face with the Vader mask.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. We all think we're gonna see Yoda.
Sure.
I don't know actually. I maybe. I wouldn't swear that we won't see Yoda, but I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't. And Yoda's scene in episode 8 is such a perfect sort of
I would be perfectly happy if that was the last time we saw Yoda, yes. I do think, though, that there's a chance that we will see almost everyone in some form or another.
I think
maybe there'll be
all the Force goes together.
Like a curtain call, like in Return of the
Also, like, at the Return of the Jedi, you can, everybody's standing there.
Curtain call.
So, Noah, I'm going to change your answer to maybe.
Maybe about whether the cast of Gandhi could be in Star Wars.
Or vice versa. I mean, all right.
Ben Kingsley could be in Star Wars.
I was just thinking that,
He is. He plays Benicio del Toro. Okay, Obi-Wan. We all said yes.
Definitely Obi-Wan.
David Prowse. We said no.
No, there won't be any David Prowse.
No.
Maz. You both said yes.
Yeah.
That's been confirmed.
Okay.
Lupita Nyong'o is in the cast listing.
Plagueis will get an honorable mention. I have that written down.
I think Plagueis will be mentioned.
Okay, an honorable mention is what I have.
The mention of Plagueis does remind me when Luke says in The Last Jedi, when he says, he's talking about the hubris and failure of the Jedi, and he says, at the peak of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to take over the Republic. That's one of those, like, the prequels happened.
The prequels existed. They happened, and you can't totally deny it,
Take
kid.
it away. Dun-dun-dun. Padme.
No.
You said no, Noah. Marc-Anthony, you said maybe a clone.
Did I really?
I think Marc-Anthony in that episode said that everyone you asked, we would see all of them again.
I did, yeah, but I mean, there is. It seems that there was maybe in some comic or something a series where Vader was trying to make a clone of Padme.
Oh.
But I assume we'll get at least a mention of Padme.
I don't.
And maybe a flashback of her.
I don't.
Okay. We shall see.
Han Solo, Amanda, and Noah. Oh, Amanda said no. You all said flashback.
I'll stand by that. I mean, there's obviously not going to be...
I think we're done.
As I think we talked about this in our last episode, there were reports Harrison Ford was definitely on the set at some point, but that does not mean he's in the movie.
I feel like 3PO saying, taking one last look at my friends means we're going to have at least one memory of Han.
I can't even, that line,
It really breaks my heart. It's beautiful.
And I'm sure they're just leading us astray and it's going to be
Sure.
a totally different thing, but when that, I mean, I'm like, literally, when I saw that trailer and that happened, I just started sobbing and screaming, they're going to kill 3PO, they're going to kill 3PO. It makes me, I'm crying right now. This is great. All right.
I thought of it a little bit when we were rewatching The Force Awakens, and 3PO says to Arku, I'm how I've missed you, my friend.
All right, who else we got, Amanda?
Okay. I'm Shelley Winters. Any Ewok, and I have just yes, MA.
I had damn well better see an Ewok, or I'm gonna just send a lunchbox full of shit to.
There
JJ.
will be an Ewok. There will be.
There had better
Maybe an Ewok will go into battle with Jar Jar Binks.
I think there's a better chance of an Ewok presence in this one than there has been in any other post Return of the Jedi.
I mean,
outing.
we assume it has to rhyme a bit with Return of the Jedi. If they're going to Endor, it would seem weird to not have at least an Ewok peek out from behind a tree.
I did not have this on a sticker, so somebody must have mentioned it. And it was probably you, Marc-Anthony. We're going to see Wedge Antilles.
We are definitely going to
That's confirmed.
Okay.
Yep.
Played by Dennis Lawson.
Praising his role as Wedge Antilles and doing his own voice this time.
And he is, of course, the uncle of Ewan McGregor.
Going back to Jar Jar Binks, 0% Noah and Sisk. Marc-Anthony, I hope.
I do. I really hope.
Is that still how you feel, Noah?
I would be
0%?
so delighted to see Jar Jar.
I would sort of be delighted in that if Jar Jar Binks appears in episode 9, it would be a very clear, I don't know, it would be such, I can't imagine what it would feel like in the theater when that character appears on the screen. It would be such an open act of defiance against the mainstream of the fan community. But I don't think it'll happen, and I don't think, it's pretty hard to imagine a narrative justification for it.
Well, I mean, I would. Here's how I would do it, or how I would love to see it: is if there's something that takes place on Coruscant, because according to some source somewhere that I believe is canon, Jar Jar ended up being a street performer on Coruscant. So I would love if there's just like maybe a pan of Coruscant streets, and we see Jar Jar juggling or something. Yes, please.
Like with the guitar case open.
Misa gonna do Freebird now.
Okay, so Freebird, we're gonna Lucas cameo. You both said yes.
I'd be surprised if it's not there.
Yeah, it seems like a strong possibility. Yeah, I would think so.
This one has no answers, so I guess we just got distracted. The lady at the bar wearing red pants.
Oh, I'd love to see her again.
I'd love to see her walking away. I like to watch her walk away.
She could show up in The Mandalorian, too.
That's true.
Mace Windu. Marc-Anthony wrote, not the last. Maybe it's not the last. We'll see if Mace Windu or he's not.
I mean, I think we definitely, I'm sure that I've said, we're going to see Mace Windu reappear in something eventually. I don't know if it'll be this, but I don't think we've seen the last of Mace Windu.
Well, my handwriting's really bad, so that could have been what I wrote, but.
Could be not the lust. Won't be lusty Mace Windu.
No, I wouldn't have written lust.
It'll be a more prim and proper Mace Windu.
We all said, I think, we might see Itchy.
I think we're more likely to see Lumpy and Mala than Itchy.
That's right.
I think perhaps, Itchy, he was probably like,
He's still in that machine with
200.
Diane Carroll.
Please let us see Diane Carroll.
That Targaryen.
That's why Skywalker is rising, you see.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
The Targaryen girl. Amelia Clark.
Oh, yeah, Kira.
No, why would
I doubt it. I really doubt
Just because Darth Maul was like, we're going to do a whole lot of business together now.
Mm-hmm. How about Baby Yoda?
But that was so many years ago.
Baby Yoda. I don't
Yeah.
think we'll see. No.
Okay.
Noah?
Right.
I don't think we're going to see Baby Yoda. I would be surprised if we are really dealing with that degree of, what would you call it, convergence with these various projects. Yeah. But I do think it's just possible. I'm not advancing this as a theory that I'm confident in, but I do think it's possible that the plot of The Mandalorian might be moving in a direction of explaining the roots of the First Order and or the whatever Palpatine is up to.
Yeah.
And that Baby Yoda might be connected to that part of the story. But I doubt we'll see Baby Yoda.
The reason I bring this up is just if it is the Kaminoans trying to get access to Baby Yoda, and if Palpatine is part of his plan is some kind of cloning something, that does seem to indicate that maybe these things will converge. I don't know how likely it is, and it could be really awkward if it doesn't work.
It makes more sense now that you've said that, though. I understand I understand. Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Snoke.
Do you think we'll see Baby Kermit in episode 9?
We'll see Robin, not
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It might be Robin playing Baby Kermit, though.
He could. He'd be a good Baby Kermit.
He would probably be the ideal choice for Baby Kermit. Mm-hmm.
We didn't say whether we'd see Snoke or not. I think not. I think he served his purpose.
I think there's a chance that we might see, a flashback of explanation of who the goddamn fuck Snoke is.
It would be nice. That would be
possible, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go through these really fast. The people that we say are going to die.
Okay.
Lando, everybody thinks he's going to die. Noah, you think Finn's going to die. Mark-Anthony?
I don't really. Did I say that in an earlier conversation?
That's what it looks like, but my handwriting again.
I don't think we're going to lose any of our main new generation heroes. I don't.
3PO, Mark-Anthony and I both say yes. I don't have anything right now.
I don't know. There may be some like 3PO sacrificing himself somehow. That's possible. I hope not, but it could happen.
We think R2-D2. Mark-Anthony, you and I think yes. And at first you didn't think so, and then I said, you think yes, and I think BB-8's going to die.
I think Mark-Anthony thought that R2 and 3PO were going to turn out to be the Wills who are...
That's a possibility. I'm not strong in it, but I wouldn't be too surprised if that were the case.
It's an interesting idea. I mean, those two droids, I mean, if the idea here really is like to conclude and close the book on the Skywalker saga, R2 and 3PO having been the constants through the whole thing, like somehow like ending their story, whether it means the death or demolition of the characters or them sort of passing on into some other role, and I don't know. It would make sense for those two droids to somehow have an ending along with the story that they've been our main guides through.
Do you think that R2 would ever live on Ahch-To?
Ahch-To, baby.
It's a place to be R2-D2.
Poe.
Yeah.
Noah, you think Poe's gonna die?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to lose Rey, Poe, Finn, or any of our main, young heroes. I can't imagine that.
Norma, already dead.
Norma dies.
I'm a horrible person. Chewie, you both said no.
Don't kill Chewbacca.
Yeah, please don't kill Chewie. We don't need an old Yeller in Star Wars.
Oh my God, no. I think we've already talked about this and said exactly old Yeller. The Emperor. Noah says no. Mark-Anthony, you say yes.
Is he gonna die?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yeah, I think we'll have a final end to Palpatine.
I don't know. I think the last movie might end with him laughing.
I don't think this is going to end in such a way that like feels as though it's setting up future installments. I think there will be more Star Wars, but I don't think it'll build on this narrative directly. And I don't think there's going to be any kind of open ending or cliffhanger or...
I don't think it's going to be a cliffhanger. I think it's just going to be one of those things that you're like, holy shit. You know, like you think it's over and then he laughs. And like Nightmare on Elm Street, you think it's over, you think he's dead, and then like the light.
And then they're going to make a really weirdly gay sequel. Please do that with Star Wars.
I think it almost...
Talking amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
What? Monkey shoes?
Yes.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Oh.
But do talk about monkey shoes if you so desire.
Monkey shoes. Okay, so BB-8, Marc-Anthony Macon said yes. What do you think?
No, that he's going to die or somehow be destroyed. No, I doubt it. I mean, I don't know, of course, but I wouldn't predict it.
And then Hux, Marc-Anthony says yes within the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think Hux is necessary. I think Hux will probably at least be defeated. You know, I think my guess is that episode 9 will have, or will at least the attempt of the movie will be to have a conclusive and satisfying happy ending. I just can't imagine that after 9 movies we're going to have either a downbeat ending or a sad ending.
I think it's going to be ambiguous and make us crazy.
I'm expecting something closer to the way Return of the Jedi ends, a sense, which in that case turned out to be short-lived, but a sense of a final victory for the Resistance. I really do. This
is interesting. I didn't remember this. Maz, Noah, you said, I have to tell Marc-Anthony this. It's funny. Hux, you said he would die in the first 15 minutes.
In the first 15 minutes, you'll right away.
Maz.
He'll be like, I'm Commander Hux! And then he'll just...
Maz, Noah said question mark. Marc-Anthony said dead, and I said already dead.
Oh, I don't remember you saying that, but that's a good angle.
Well, Lupita Nyong'o is in the movie, so we know we're going to see her.
But she was...
But maybe Maz has been dead all along, and she's just...
Oh.
She's dead. She's already dead. I don't think so, actually, anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, what would make her dead, you know? Like, I don't know.
I'll bet there's a good chance that Maz will be, I don't expect her to have a ton of screen time, but I wouldn't be surprised if she turns out to be important to the story.
I would think so, too. She's got to figure in there some way. If nothing else, she kind of has to do some exposition of, hopefully explain where she got that lightsaber and how it came to, you know.
They wouldn't have given her such a big part just to be like the owner of this thing that sends Finn to, I mean, like that can't be her only purpose.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, but she likes that Wookiee.
I like that Wookiee.
So those are the predictions I had from last time.
I have a prediction that I'd like you to note. I feel like rather than there being a Star Killer base type or, you know, big destructive weapon thing in this episode, I think what might happen is all of that fleet of Star Destroyers has been outfitted with planet-killing weapons, and they're going to spread out around the galaxy and threaten to blow up all the planets at once.
So all the Star Destroyers have been fitted with something that will blow up planets?
Yep.
So like when they're appearing in the sky?
Right.
You think that's what they're doing?
I think that it's going to be, and now my plan comes together.
Daryl Hux!
We have spread the Star Destroyers across the galaxy. That's.
And do you think they have the power of the Death Star or of?
Yeah, they've got like mini Death Star lasers. Yeah.
Like the technology's improved, so they don't have to have something so
on the bottom of them will open up, and they're. That's my prediction.
It takes place a year after the events of Episode 8, so there is plenty of, you know. I mean, that is unusual, I guess, about Episode 8, The Last Jedi. The fact that, you know, it does pick up pretty much right after. Rey and Luke. It takes place, in the moments following the end of Episode 7. Usually, there's more time elapses between episodes, and in this case, it will have been a year.
What other predictions we got, fellas?
I don't know. We've been predicting things about this movie for so long. I don't think I have anything fresh. Will
Rey and Kylo kiss?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
At this point, it would be just sort of disappointing if it wound up being just that whole thing was just a meet cute. Yeah. I don't want it to just be a conventional love story with them at this point.
Like when Harry met Sally and they're like laughing later and they're like, we didn't even like each other.
Yeah, no, I don't think it'll be that. And then you go to some old couple talking to the camera. He was a Sith.
All right, give me another prediction. Let's talk. Okay, will Rose and Finn fall in love?
I don't think so.
I don't. It doesn't feel like that's where we're going.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that there's. I mean, personally, I want there to either be no real romantic resolutions or for Finn and Poe to get together. The only romance I'll allow is queer in this one because we've had plenty of straight sci-fi couples. Can we just?
It's hard to tell Rose that though, you know.
Yeah, well.
But I mean, Star Wars has always been pretty light on this stuff. Han and Leia Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher had this tremendous chemistry, and their scenes together in the original trilogy are full of a kind of will they or won't they tension, and but there's not a lot of love scenes. There's just an occasional love moment within another scene. I think that's one of what
it's flirty.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons.
I love you. I mean,
in episodes 2 and 3, like part of what I think just feels a little off target about the Padme Anakin romance is that Star Wars just hasn't had much of that kind of thing.
Well, that's why they can't score it. It was terribly scored. I'm sorry, but it was. Okay, well, here's a question I have, and then other people need to start asking questions because clearly I'm just going off the rails here. Will someone hug Kylo Ren? I wish they would.
That's a big question. It seems to me Kylo Ren has to be either redeemed or defeated in this movie.
Mm-hmm. And I'm still, I think I'm going to put my heaviest money on he will be redeemed by sacrificing himself.
Or Rey will join him to rule the galaxy.
It's just not going to end that way. If this wasn't the last one, sure. But I mean, maybe a movement within this movie will be about that. But by the end of the movie, all the good guys are going to win.
You don't know what Abrams is capable of.
Do not underestimate.
You did not spend 8 years of your life waiting for him to tell you what was going on.
But that's because the show that you're talking about never got my attention. Star Wars did, and it has the world's attention in a way that's far more than any other, I guess really almost maybe truly any other property. And from the things he said in interviews and all that, I think if anything, we might feel like Abrams is being a little too reverent and adhering too closely to like the things that he might think everyone wants from this movie. And I would be shocked. And I feel 100% sure that however this ends, there's not going to be anything disappointing or challenging or sad about the final conclusion.
I think you are wrong.
I think the ending is going to be like...
they'll split the difference and just say, okay, we'll get together, we'll both rule the galaxy, but we'll have half fascism.
Right.
Halfism.
Half-ass fascism.
Well, we'll just have, a tepid fascism.
So on the ambiguity meter, from 0 being, we know everything that's going on, to 10 meaning, I just watched Lost, where Noah's basically at a 0. You think everything's going to be laid out, we're going to get satisfied?
Not necessarily. I think it's going to be what I think it's going to be is a happy ending. I don't think the ending of episode 9 will be ambiguous, and I don't think it will be downbeat.
I think I agree with that.
Do you think there will be fans who are upset if it's a happy ending?
I think there'll be fans who are upset.
No
Yeah,
matter
no
what.
matter
No matter
what.
what happens, there'll be fans that are upset. I'm just hoping I'm not one of them.
Yeah,
You won't
exactly.
be. You won't be. Are you kidding?
I don't know. I mean, I was and still to some extent am about The Force Awakens, and this is J.J. Abrams again, and he's never ended anything.
No. Yeah. See.
That's
I'm sorry.
the thing.
He broke my heart.
He doesn't know how to end stuff, and now he's going to end the biggest story ever. It's...
Any other predictions, fellas? What else you got? We've
I've
gone through this for a long time, so we've said a lot.
Yeah, and in fact, our next episode on December 8th, I imagine it'll be a brief episode because it's just an episode about anticipating Rise of Skywalker. But in a way, we've been doing that all along.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks, one way or another, we will, maybe over the next 2 weeks, the three of us should come up with some fresh predictions and ideas.
And I think, diving into some of the spoilers and fan theories would be interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we might as well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been diving in as deep as I could, partly for the Yoda reason I mentioned earlier. But I mean, I have been, occasionally reading an article. Usually it's, the things that have spoiler alerts attached to them are just like a picture of an upcoming toy has been released, and we can tell from this toy that Rey is going to wear boots,
Right, yeah.
It hasn't been terribly revealing stuff.
But there is always the danger of, having a Qui-Gon's noble end pop up.
A what?
So in the score that was released for Phantom Menace before the film was released.
Oh, God.
Qui-Gon's noble end, so we were like, well, fuck.
Because it's not talking about his ass.
Yes. It's not Qui-Gon's noble big ass door.
Yeah. Noble big ass.
Noble big ass. Well, I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything here with Last Jedi, and we're primed for Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, we are.
Any final thoughts either of you have on this installment or what awaits us?
Well, I just want to say a word. We've talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, but in this discussion of The Last Jedi, I just want to say that it seems a shame to me that whenever this movie is discussed, it's always described as the divisive or controversial, or it's always talked about in terms of having had this negative reaction from some contingency of fan base. And I know that that's not untrue, but I don't think it's as true or as pervasive as is sometimes described. And I think the movie is just much better and also much more true to the spirit of the Star Wars series than would be suggested by the way it's often talked about. And it seems sort of that that's just the reality. It will be remembered and described as polarizing, controversial, entry in the series. I don't think it deserves that.
Yeah, I don't think, and I think that as time goes on and the memory of those gripes fades, that won't really be noticed so much. And I think that the main reason that persists is that the people that really hate it still have not stopped openly hating it, and aggressively so. I
mean, until you guys told me that there was this huge problem with it, I had no idea, because I don't read.
We could even test it. If I were right now to make a post on Facebook about how much I love The Last Jedi, you watch how many nerds swoop in and start a screed about why it's bad.
I know.
It's like the movie came out, 3 years ago?
It's easier to hate shit.
It is, but I it's hard for me to relate to that, because if I hate something, I might lambaste it upon first viewing or reading or seeing or hearing it, and maybe for another couple weeks.
But you don't carry it with you for your entire life.
And I'm not going to seek out anyone that likes it and tell them why they shouldn't. I really just don't understand the mentality behind that.
What about the Nazis, Marc-Anthony?
Oh my God.
You wouldn't go tell people not to like the Nazis? You just be like, live and let live?
Yeah, totally. They have the right to have their stupid opinions.
Well, I mean, one thing that has clearly happened is, the response to The Last Jedi, that particular response to it is part of this larger narrative of a certain faction within the fandom, as it's called, that doesn't want to see female Ghostbusters, that doesn't want to see, movies making strides in terms of racial diversity in their casting and more it seems like a stretch to describe something that's feminist just because it has some female characters with agency in it, but that aspect too is troubling to some fans. So the movie has become, like, opposing it has become a political cause for a certain, I think, very small portion of Star Wars fans. But beside that, I do feel some sympathy for the people, and I know there are people who genuinely didn't like The Last Jedi, but not for racist or sexist reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We have some Faces of Stone viewers who have expressed that, who didn't like The Last Jedi. They have their criticisms of it, which are, perfectly valid, even if I may disagree with them. But they're almost hesitant to criticize it because they don't want to associate themselves with the really toxic critique of it. Yeah. I feel for those people. They're in a tough bind.
It's unfortunate that
they just didn't like the movie. It's not because they hate women and people of color.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like Wine Country, and it's not because I hate women.
Yeah, right. So those fans are in a bind, and if any of them are watching now,
heart goes out.
Yeah, but anyway, we've said it explicitly. It is possible to dislike The Last Jedi
without being a horrible racist or
yeah. I mean, it's similarly to Black Panther. You can dislike Black Panther and not be a person. That is possible.
I don't think so.
True. Yes. Now, what movies do you think it's not possible to dislike without being a racist or a misogynist?
You like Triumph of the Will.
Probably
you are going to be a racist, but you're not necessarily not a racist if you don't like it.
What if you admire the cinematic innovations of Birth of a Nation, but not the message of it?
I mean, design sometimes trumps content.
Good choice of words.
If you don't like On Golden Pond, you
you hate old people.
Yeah. And loons. You hate loons.
You hate loons.
Hate loons. Well, now that we're talking about On Golden Pond and loons,
it might be time to close this down.
I think it is time to close this down. So thank you everyone for joining us.
My last prediction is that Peter Fonda is going to show up with a loon.
Who's going to show up?
Peter Fonda and a loon.
Please, Peter Fonda playing a loon.
Yes.
I would be so down for that.
Check. All right.
So thanks again to my co-hosts, Noah Diamond and Amanda Sisk. It's wonderful to see you all, as always, here. Here is our information that Noah is holding up, facesofstone.space, where you can find us. And I will let him talk so you can see a bigger screen here of our names.
Hey, there we are. Those are our Twitter handles. But you know how this works. Google us.
There are links on our pages. You can find these things. We will see you.
If you Google Faces of Stone, you're going to get a lot of shit you don't want.
And some of it may not be appropriate for your grandma.
Google our names. Google our names.
Please, get our SEOs up. We've got to get this shit going.
If you do search for us online, you might even find yourself purchasing a copy of our new book, 400 Years in Manhattan.
It's a great book. I've read it like 6 times.
And it's holiday gift.
And this new edition is a beautiful, full-color, glossy treatment. And do you think it makes a great gift?
Oh, a great holiday gift for the historian, for people who love New York, and for people who love glossy books.
It hadn't occurred to me before, but I suppose it would make a perfectly acceptable gift. I think it would make a
great gift for anyone
where can you purchase this? You can buy this?
You can purchase it at noahdiamond.com.
Oh my God, we're so lucky.
That's what we are, lucky.
Oh my God.
Folks.
Something horrible happened.
Right.
Is there a problem in the upper left window?
Well, It's the last. Well, it's fine.
Okay. This has been
Faces
of Rise of Stone.
Stone.
Stone.